They say you can't take things with you when you die, but I'm taking this DeWalt belt sander. It's been discontinued for years and I'm on my 6th one, and I stash parts like it's the apocalypse. This sander is so critical to my deck building, I refuse to use anything else. Let me show you why. Like I said before, this is my 6th belt sander of the same one by DeWalt. The model number isn't on here, but I did write it down. It's the DW432 or possibly the 433. Depends if it has a variable speed on it or not. So let's find out if this one has variable speed or not. This one does not, so I believe this is a 432. The reason I like this belt sander so much, there's multiple reasons, but when I started building circular and curved decks, this belt sander became a very important part of my life. It has some really great power for such a small compact unit. It's very aggressive, which I need with what I'm doing. I'm not doing fine woodworking with this. I'm removing coarse materials quickly for a certain reason. Usually I'm sanding out deck boards, I'm sanding out corners and end grains. I'm just sanding out a lot of different things. A belt sander, in my opinion, for a job site tool is very essential. You gotta have one. And there's a couple different versions out there. This one I became very accustomed to as my career forged on. And as these belt sanders are no longer made, it's hard to find parts for them. So I end up buying complete units on eBay or from followers or people on YouTube that are willing to sell me theirs because maybe they don't use it, maybe they want to upgrade to a cordless version, but I like the raw power of this particular sander. Let me tell you a couple of things that I've done to this one that maybe you have or haven't. Maybe you have the same belt sander and didn't realize that you could change the handle location, or possibly add a longer cord to it. Now, usually I add longer cords just for ease and convenience of use. This is a corded version. This is not cordless, and it has much better power because of that. The first thing you'll notice is I took the handle, and normally when you get the belt sander, the handle is put in this position right here. So I take the handle and I put it in the forward position. So a lot of times what I'm using this for is, let's say I just built a deck and there's a curve in it, and I've got a circular area that I have a track that I'm gonna install a surface border in. This particular sander, and usually what I do is I'm gonna hold the cord up around my neck like this to keep it up out of my face and out of my way, because you can see on this cord, it's frayed. That is actually from the belt sander itself fraying out on the cord. Sometimes you can roll over the top of it with a really aggressive belt. Doesn't take much to do that kind of thing with your belt sander, so that needs some electrical tape. So I'll take this sander and I'll run it like this, back and forth on my curved piece to kind of smooth it out. I'll have a really close eye. Sometimes I'll have the board marked, and then I'll be able to sand down to that mark on edge with the sander while the decking is already installed. So you'll notice that this side of my sander, the handle is shaved. And the reason I did that was because I'm usually trying to run up against something where there's decking material, and that sits an inch higher than the trough that I'm actually sanding in. So while I'm doing that, this will allow me to run the sander in a 5.5 inch trough and not get in the way. So that is a really awesome thing to have. Not only do I get to keep this for leverage, which you kind of need. I mean, I could always hold my hand here, but to have the handle, but to still be able to move it around and not impede, because before, if I didn't have this, this was always getting in my way. It would hit the edge of a board and then I'd have to stop. So I said, well, okay, I zipped off the handle, I flipped the sander over, and I actually sanded the handle down. I may have pre-cut it on the chop saw, I don't remember. But then I did a little finish sanding on it, and then I mounted it back onto the sander, and it worked really great. So on this particular one, like I said, I think this is my 6th one. The 5th one's here on site with us, so I have 2 of these on site, and then I have 2 broken ones. And the first thing that goes, usually on these, are this grill area on the back side of the sander. So you can see this one's already got a couple of dents in it, and a couple of the louvers are cracked. The louvered area right here is cracked, the vents. Sometimes I'll take this stuff apart because it's belt driven, and then there's a band, like it looks kind of like a rubber band, but it's a little heavier duty than that. And then there's a band that runs this port exhaust for your additional waste that comes out of the sander. I usually don't run a bag on my sanders. I'm just chunking out too much material and that thing fills up so fast. But you're able to open or close this port. If you don't want the dust to blow out this port, you can actually open it or close it. Sometimes when I'm sanding in a vertical fashion like this blows sawdust right in your face, and it's quite annoying. So it's kind of nice to be able to shut this down and keep the flow of your sawdust off so that it's not getting up in your mouth. Because, you know, PVC doesn't taste all that great. All right, so a couple other things that I really liked about the sander is it has a dial, and most sanders do, but this one just works really well for dialing where you want the belt to lay on the track. So I can dial this in. This one has really good tension. Sometimes these get loose and then they don't work that good, but I sand for miles and miles and miles with this belt sander, so the parts wear out. Here's your quick release right here. So you just twist this like so, and then the belt comes off. These are not my favorite belts. This is a 40 grit, so it's a little smooth for what I like to use. I usually use a 32 grit or as rough as I can get, because when I'm done sanding out my part, you're not gonna be able to tell really what kind of grit it is because everything gets covered. Everything's gonna be concealed. So usually I'm trying to break away a lot of material quickly. Sometimes this cork flat plate right here will come apart or wear out eventually as well. So sometimes I have to replace those, but I'm not able to get parts for it anymore unless I just buy a whole nother unit. So usually what happens is once a certain amount of this belt sander breaks, then I will end up having to go and buy another one or rob Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. So I've often take trigger assemblies or certain inner parts. Sometimes I've had this part break right here, the part that spins the belt, this wheel. But I also like the aggressive stance of this belt sander, the way that there's 3 rollers. It's not just a 2-roller system, it's actually a 3-roller system. I don't know why DeWalt quit making this thing. I think it's a really trick system. So when you hit that tension release, you can see what it does. It rolls this one roller back, so it just loosens up the belt, and then you flip that forward, and it locks it back in. Then you dial it in when you operate the belt sander, then you can run this dial to get the belt where you want it. I like to run my belts right at the edge of here because I'm usually trying not to damage the floor of what I'm sanding, because usually there's tape and sometimes bladder material, and sometimes I hit the tape. So sometimes I'll go back about an 1/8 inch. So right now this is sitting pretty good. That's about where I like my sander to sit, because I don't want it to go too close to the bottom and tear out the material that's below it, but I do want to be able to take as much of the base of this board as I can, for example, like this. So I'm taking out as much as I can out of the board without leaving the bottom. Quick tip for you, when you're cutting your decking, some saws will actually allow you to cut a back bevel in the board. I like to do that as much as possible. So maybe not on a track saw, but like if I'm doing free cuts on curves and things, I'm trying to take my blade and cut it with a back bevel like this so that my long point is up. Then if I need to sand it out, I'm just sanding the tip, the top side of the deck board, and I still have some freedom on the bottom so that when I put the mating piece up to it, it fits really nice. So just a quick tip for you guys out there that are possibly gonna be using one of these or testing one or trying one out or whatever, just a little action for you on that. There's a speed adjuster right here. I usually leave mine in 5, and then obviously a locking trigger is good too. This one has a locking trigger right here. A lot of times when I'm sanding, if I have to sand a lot, I'm locking that in and letting the thing get up to speed, and then I start making my cut into whatever it is I'm sanding. So that is the corded belt sander. Now, cordless technology is great. I have a lot of cordless tools. Our job site is 80% cordless. If I have some light duty sanding to do, I'll grab this guy right here, which is the cordless version of this belt sander. I don't like it as much as this corded version. There's just some tools that are made that just can't compete with a corded version of a tool. This is a DW432. It can do about 75% of what I need it to do, but it's just not quite the sander that this is. This has lots of power, lots of energy, lots of options. The handle on this one is not adjustable, but check it out. I just realized this, they put this handle in a forward position so that it sits like the one I did, the one I modified, where I put it in the forward position as well. So that's kind of interesting that they chose that position. And then I don't know, this one, yeah, if I try to sand, I can't use this in certain circumstances unless I file this or shave this handle. But I probably will never do that because I have this. When I'm out of these, then I'll probably have to start figuring out what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna make this work. But you just don't quite have the power of this belt sander that you do of this one. And when I need to remove a lot of grit, when I need to take off a lot of material off a board, this is gonna take forever. Sometimes I'll make another additional cut on something where if I have this, I may not do that. My favorite belts are, Gator makes a ceramic belt that I used to buy at Lowe's. They're just not available there anymore. But they're a gray belt and they're ceramic and they do last a long time and they work very well and take off really great amounts of material. So let me show you in action what I'm talking about. We're gonna take a square piece of PVC and we're just gonna curve it out and round it out. And maybe I'll do it with this sander and then maybe I'll go ahead and take this one. I think this one has a little bit fresher belt. It ain't gonna matter. This belt sander's still gonna do better than this one, I guarantee it. All right, let's check it out. We have this piece of PVC set up. And again, that's what I sand a lot of. I usually am sanding pressure treated and PVC products. That's what we build with mostly. So let's just say I wanted to add a nice little curve to the corner of this board. So let's use the corded sander. Took all of 30 seconds or so, or not even maybe, to do that. We could take a file and file that out and some end grain paint, make that look real pretty. You can see the sawdust as well, okay? There's a lot of it when you do PVC. So now let's flip the board. Let's use the cordless belt sander and see how it does in comparison. And I had that dialed all the way up to 5. And to be fair, I have this one dialed up to 5 as well. That's probably close. Yeah, that's about close. So it didn't take us much longer to create that same effect with the cordless sander, but you can tell that the sander is bogging down quite a bit. And again, lots of sawdust. But when I need a belt sander to give me the gusto, the cordless one just usually doesn't have it. Plus, if you're ripping really hard on materials, a cordless belt sander, you're gonna go through a lot of batteries as well. So just something to consider when you're looking for that corded versus cordless option. So Studio Man just asked me if I thought the other side was faster. I think it was, but you probably know by now because he's gonna put a timer to it to see. So let's see if I'm right or wrong on that. And don't forget to leave a comment below about your opinion on a corded versus a cordless tool. I think most cordless tools are cool, but I feel like there are some corded tools, our belt sander, our table saw, and a couple others that we always will have a plug-in option for, that some of the cordless technology, it's just not comparable to a corded tool. So if you happen to have one of those corded DeWalt belt sanders and it's in really good shape and you don't want it anymore, hit us up, let me know and I'll purchase it from you. And if you want to have your deck featured in one of our videos, click the link below to see how it's done. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.